Unless you're backpacking across Southeast Asia, living in the 70s, or have shrunk yourself to a teeny tiny Matt Damon, living on $40 a day probably isn't sustainable.
Wow. That is wild, isn't it?
But that's how much job hunters will have to live on come March, when the government ends JobSeeker and benefits return to their pre-COVID levels.
It certainly won't be enough. $40 a day, I challenge anyone to live on. People who are on JobSeeker have seen their standard of living decline not only by 40% relative to everyone else in Australia, but actually in real terms as well.
But today, pressure is mounting on the government to lift the rate, even from some within the coalition.
People need to be able to live on JobSeeker.
I would never be so bold to say I could live on $715 a fortnight.
I can't live on that number.
When the JobSeeker supplements came in, they provided those out of work with $1,115 per fortnight. By September, that was cut to $815. In January, it went down again to $715. And come March, it'll drop to just $565, almost half the original rate, and about $350 below the poverty line.
Politicians ask, can we afford to keep JobSeeker supplement going? But really what they should ask is, can we afford to stop it? By stopping it, we're not only taking money out of the economy, taking stimulus out, but we're actually having negative consequences for individual households. The costs of not increasing it may well be greater than the costs of increasing the supplement.
And it's not just those in the coalition who reckon Australia's overdue for a permanent increase. Even Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe reckons the rate feels low.
For me, it's not really kind of a macroeconomic management issue. My own view is that some increase is justifiable.
That may sound pretty tame, but it's putting extra pressure on the PM to do something about it. And it sounds like he knows it.
I mean, we're still in February today, so there's plenty of time for us to deal with any new settings we want to contemplate.
So is this a sign that the government is finally ready to give those without a job enough to get by?
Gee, this has been going on a long time.
Oh, has it ever? I mean, New Start or unemployment benefits, other than the pandemic, haven't increased in real terms since Paul Keating was Prime Minister of Australia.
That's early 90s.
It's unbelievable. They're going to put it up. I'm convinced of that. They just haven't announced it yet.
Yeah, but not only do they need to put it up, it needs to be announced as soon as possible. This is something that puts so much stress on the families that need it, and it's cruel. And I think that at a certain point you realise that maybe some politicians are out of touch and they don't realise how stressful that is.
You've hit it on the head right there. I don't think they have the empathy or the realisation. Even if they've had tough times in the past, you're very sheltered as a politician. I don't think it's malice. I just think they're trying to line their ducks up ahead of it coming to an end in March, not realising that people fret about that, understandably so.
But also, people on New Start, they stimulate the economy because every cent they get, they spend.
Economically, that's why economists absolutely for years now want it to go up, because low-income earners spend their money.
Yeah.
They are the most valuable people to give a tax cut to, or in the case of people who are unemployed, to give an increase to unemployment benefits. Anyway, we'll see what happens.
With so much content online, it's sometimes hard to keep up with it all. And let's face it, who has the time? The Project YouTube has you covered with the stories that matter. Hit subscribe for a daily list of the news that you need to know.